A 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a show, yeah, with no particular niche, baby. It's always about hanging out. Maybe we'll laugh at some stuff, maybe we'll learn something new, but it's always about hanging out, me and you. Hi, hello, and welcome to That Thing with James, a podcast about nothing in particular. I'm your host, James, and thanks for tuning in. What's up? How's it going? Tax season is here, and let's see here. By the time this episode comes out, this episode will come out. Let's see, on the 12th. So, tax day is almost here. Hopefully, you've paid your taxes. I'm pretty upset that. I'm pretty upset about what my tax dollars are going to, but, you know, this time of the year, my Fed taxes, those go toward my, Social Security and Medicare, but the other taxes going toward bombs and sorts of things targeting civilians and aid workers. I find reprehensible, and I'm pissed off. I'm really pissed off that, we can scream all we want, but they don't fucking care. Hey, what's up? Let's reel it back in here. Hi, welcome to the show. I'm recording this on Sunday, April 7th at 10:02 a.m. Central Time Zone, United States, North America, Earth, solar system, space. And yeah, the past few episodes I've been talking about some science stuff. So today I figured maybe we could talk about some more science stuff. We're going to talk about Planck. Shit, I meant to look up how to pronounce that before this starts. I'm going to say, I might look it up. I might look up the right pronunciation, but we're talking about that. Planck. This thing made by this guy named Planck or Planck, however it's pronounced. We're talking about that. And also, by the time this episode comes out, I guess the total solar eclipse will have come and gone. And I know there's all sorts of people saying all sorts of, oh, it's end times. You know how many times it's been end times, you morons? People think people are the smartest people. Humans think humans are the smartest things. No, not at all. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that earthworms are smarter than humans. You know, we come around to find out maybe scientists, maybe researchers have already discovered that earthworms or fucking bed bugs are more intelligent than humans, and they're suppressing it because of a fucking ego trip, because that seems to be what drives humanity a lot. Aside from, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're on an ego trip a lot of times. But sometimes we can take a step back and look at what's really going on around us and inside us. And sometimes we will discover that way down, way deep down, there is a thing called a Planck. Yes, I'm bringing it back to today's subject, Plancks. So the way it was described to me was that essentially it is the smallest measurement of space and time possible that we've yet to discover. And I believe Planck found this like mathematic constant back around 1900. And the way I made sense of it is, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, and if you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, you should subscribe. And if you're listening to this, you should also know that this podcast has a full video component where you get to see my lovely, unkempt visage saying the words that you're hearing me say. And then you should go to the YouTube channel and check it out and subscribe to it and watch this video and watch closely because there's something you may not notice. There's something your brain is processing here. It's that this video is being brought to you at 30 frames per second. Yeah, this isn't a moving picture. There's not, you cannot have a single picture that moves. Kind of like, particle is both a wave and a particle, that sort of thing. And that's not how moving images work. That's where we get the term movies. They're moving picture shows because it's just like cartoons. With a cartoon, old school, and well, I guess it's still the same way with digital. You draw a single picture, like a flip book. You draw a single picture, and then whatever the figure, say it's a smiley face that's talking to you, you draw a picture, and then you draw another picture in which the smiley face has moved just a little bit. And then you draw another picture where it moves a little bit further and a little bit more and again and again and again. So what you're seeing here is, because I'm recording, I set my camera to record at 30 FPS, 30 frames per second. If you're a gamer, then this is old news to you. But if you didn't know, that's how video works. It's a series of pictures, much like a cartoon. It's a series of still images shown to you at a rapid rate. So when I say 30 frames per second, that means within 1 second, let's see, 1 Mississippi, or 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. Right there, you just saw 90 frames pass you by. That is 90 still images of me talking to the camera, progressively moving, shown to you at a rapid rate. Your brain then processes it not as single still images, so it's not herky-jerky. Your brain processes it as a sort of a fluid moving object. Now, for a cinematic look, you're looking at 24 frames per second. So within a single second, you are seeing 24 consecutive still images shown to you progressively. And that creates sort of what we call a cinematic look that's used in film and a lot of cinematic looking TV shows, but shows like your news and sports and stuff like that's generally 30 frames per second. Although nowadays, sports may be shown at 60 frames per second, and there's a lot of video games that show 60 still frames in a single second. So it looks even more smooth. And then you can even go on to 120 frames per second. But regardless, the way I understand the whole Planck thing is that it is the smallest measurement that we have yet found of space and time. Okay? So you could think of a Planck, a Planck measure of time being a single frame of time that you're experiencing with your own eyes if you are blessed with vision. You're looking around the world. You're not looking at a screen. Go out, after this episode, go outside and look around you and understand that the things you are seeing all around you are happening in progressively still states, moving, much like a moving picture, much like a movie, much like the video portion of this podcast. And then time applies to that as well. And then measurement applies to it as well. It's like a pixel. Everything around you is a plank moving at a plank. It's a pixel moving at a single frame with your own eyes. That's the kind of reality you experience. Sort of like a video game. That's how I understand Planck, and that's kind of how it was explained to me by an old stoner friend from college who was in the English department, because I studied theater. I hung out with the theater crowd, but there was a lot of crossover between the theater department, the English department, and the jazz department. We all attended each other's parties and our circles, interweaved. And very few of us were sober. Now, I've found some articles. We're going to read through them. I skimmed over them before this. We're going to read through them and see if I got the idea of Planck. Fuck it. I'm just going to call it Planck. It's probably Planck, because I'm pretty sure the guy's German. Planck. But I'm going to say Planck. Planck. We're going to look at these articles and see what they have to say, and see if my understanding of the Planck constant and Planck measurements in general is, if it's on point, if it's accurate, or if I'm way off base. But before that, if you would like access to a whole, and this is a technical term, shit ton of bonus episodes of this podcast, you can get access to them by supporting the show at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. Yes, patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. $5 minimum entry for 30 days access to the whole, again, technical term, shit ton of bonus episodes of this podcast, plus other perks and other little things available there. So, and if you want peace of mind of getting to help support an independent creator and an independent artiste, plus get access to all those bonus episodes, support the show at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. As for my show email, my socials, and my subreddit, you can find those written in the episode description. And if you're watching this on video, well, it's also in the episode video description. Plus, it's appearing right now in the Chiron at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to give that time to show up on the video. Okay, that should be good. I'm going to take a quick water break, and then we're going to get into these articles and see if I'm on target or way off of my understanding of Planck. For this for the resources, I'm referencing space.com, which is what I've been referencing the past 2 or 3 episodes, I think, and it's proven a pretty reasonably reliable resource for the purposes of this show. Again, this is not expressly a science show. It's technically a show about nothing in particular, which happens to mean whatever I am particularly interested when I record the episode. That could have been stated far more eloquently, but I'm not taking it back. So before we jump in, let's figure out, what is time? What is time? Space.com. This article was last updated August 26, 2022 by Jonathan O'Callaghan of How It Works magazine. What is time? Time is all around us, but how exactly does it work? From the beginning of the universe to present day, time is one of the few things we regard as regular and unchanging. Time works by measuring periods between past, present, and future. But that's a simple, albeit vague, answer to an incredibly complex topic. Time is all around us and is the basis of how we record life on Earth. Civilizations rise and fall, stars are born and extinguished, and our method of tracking how those moments relate to the present remains unchanged. But time is not as constant nor as simple as it may seem. In the 17th century, physicist Isaac Newton, that dude was wild, by the way. You got to look up the other stuff that guy was on. He was he was an alchemist. Anyway, Isaac Newton saw time as an arrow fired from a bow traveling in a direct straight line and never deviating from its path. To Newton, 1 second on Earth was the same length of time as it was as that same second on Mars, Jupiter, or in deep space. He believed that absolute motion could not be detected, which meant that nothing in the universe had constant speed, even light. By applying this theory, he was able to assume that if the speed of light could vary, then time must be constant. Time must tick from 1 second to the next, with no difference between the length of any 2 seconds. That is something that it's easy to think is true. Complicated sentence there. Every day has roughly 24 hours. You don't have a day with 26 and one with 23. However, in 1905, Albert Einstein asserted that the speed of light doesn't vary, but is constant, traveling at 186,282 miles per second. He postulated that time was more like a river, ebbing and flowing, depending on the effects of gravity and space-time. Time would speed up and slow down around cosmological bodies with different masses and velocities, and therefore 1 second on Earth was not the same length of time everywhere else in the universe. Decades later, Einstein's theory was proven to be true. On October 1971, physicist J.C. Haffel and Richard Keating tested Einstein's theory by flying 4 Celsius atomic clocks on planes around the world, going eastward and then westwards. In their paper, published in 1972 in the journal Science, Halefi and Keating reported that the airborne clocks were about 59 nanoseconds slower than a ground-based atomic clock when traveling east, and 273 nanoseconds faster than the ground-based version when going west. The result supported Einstein's theory that time fluctuates throughout the universe. Time isn't constant. Time changes for all of us. So how long is a second? There are 2 main ways of measuring time: dynamic and atomic time. The former relies on the motion of celestial bodies, including Earth, to keep track of time, whether it's the rotation time of a distant spinning star, such as a pulsar, the motion of a star across our night sky, or the rotation of the Earth. However, a spinning star notwithstanding, these methods are not always entirely accurate. The old definition of a second was based on the rotation of Earth. As it takes the sun 1 day to rise in the east, set in the west, and rise again, the day was almost arbitrarily divided into 24 hours, an hour into 60 minutes, a minute into 60 seconds. However, Earth doesn't rotate uniformly. Its rotation decreases at a rate of about 30 seconds every 10,000 years due to factors such as tidal friction. Scientists have devised ways to account for the changing speed of Earth's rotation, introducing leap seconds and then leap years. That's why leap years exist. But for the most accurate time, you have to go even smaller. Atomic time relies on the energy transition within an atom of a certain element, commonly celsium. By defining a second using the number of these transitions, time can be measured with an accuracy of losing a tiny portion of a second in 1,000,000 years. The definition of a second is now defined as 9,192,631,770 transitions within a Celsius atom, Scientific American reported. So, now we know what time is. Let's get even fucking weirder with what is Planck time. But first, I need to wet my whistle again. I got a little frothy reading about time. What is Planck time? Published January 6, 2022 on space.com by Andrew May. This was a difficult article to find, and there's not many like it because most of the time it gets extremely technical. So hopefully this is a little more easy to digest for those who are perhaps not super technically inclined. Let's read. The almost impossibly brief Planck time has been known since the 19th century. Originally dismissed as a mere curiosity, it may hold the key to understanding the universe. The Planck time is an incredibly small interval of time that emerges naturally from a few basic quantities in theoretical physics. When it was discovered by Max Planck at the end of the 19th century, it seemed to be no more than a scientific curiosity. But today, it plays a tantalizing role in our understanding of the Big Bang and the search for a theory of quantum gravity. Here's a summary of everything we know about Planck time, where it came from, what it is, and what it might reveal about the way the universe works. Planck time definition. The Planck time was first described in a scientific paper written by Planck in 1899 in a section called Natural Measurement Units. The paper in German can be found at the Biodiversity Heritage Library. In everyday use, measurement units are no big deal. We use whatever is convenient, ounces or tons for mass, miles or inches for distance, minutes or days for time. Scientists tend to use SI units, kilograms, meters, seconds, because they simplify complex calculations, but only up to a point. The math can still get tortuously complex. In Newton's, hey, there's that guy again, equation for the force of gravity, for example, the gravitational constant G has brain-twisting units of quote-unquote cubic meters per kilogram or per second squared, according to Swinburne University. Swinburne. It's probably pronounced Swibe. Whatever. In these units, G... I'm not just talking about myself, which is one of the most fundamental numbers in the universe, has the arbitrary looking value of 0.0000000000667. I may have missed a zero. Planck wanted to use a more quote-unquote natural set of units in which G, a similar fundamental constants are exactly equal to 1. The second parameter Planck chose was the speed of light, c, in meters per second. This was known to be an important constant even in 1899, despite the fact that Einstein's theory of relativity, with which it's closely associated, still lay several years in the future. Wow. Oh, wow. Seems multiple minds were scratching at the same itch. The third parameter was a brand new constant Planck himself had just discovered, now known simply as Planck's constant. Usually represented by the letter h, it's the ratio of a photon's energy to its frequency. with units of kilograms multiplied square meters per second. See, I'm already, my eyes are glazing over even with that brief sentence. I'm not, let's keep going. Taking these three constants as his starting point, Planck was able to find a new set of measurement units in which they are all precisely equal to 1. These basic units are referred to as the Planck mass, Planck length, and Planck time. Our particular interest here is in the last of these, but there's a close relationship between the last two. Planck length is equal to the Planck time multiplied by the speed of light. Easy stuff. My 5-year-old could do this in his sleep, and I don't even have any kids. Thank goodness. I'm not even going to try to describe this equation that I'm looking at here. I'm just going to keep reading. Planck time in seconds. The U.S. National Institute for Standards and Technology gives the value of the Planck time as 5.391247 times 10 to the negative 44th power seconds. I don't know what that means. Is that like negative times plus minus squared a whole lot? In other sources, including Planck's original paper, you may find a slightly bigger value around, 1.35 times 10 to the negative 43rd power seconds. I don't get it. As explained by Eric Weisstein's World Physics site, this is due to the use of two different versions of Planck's constant. The larger value uses Planck's original quantity h, while the smaller, more common value uses a parameter called h bar, which is h divided by 2 pi. What? What the fuck are they even saying? I wanted an easy explanation. Whichever value is used, the result is a time interval that is unimaginably tiny in the context of everyday experience. A nanosecond, often used colloquially to mean, quote unquote, a very short time, is 0.000000001 seconds. I didn't miss with 8 zeros between the decimal point and the first significant figure. The Planck time has no fewer than 43 zeros. It's the time it takes light to travel 1 Planck length. Well, you could have led with that, you jerk. Oh my God. Talk about burying the lead, which is around 1/100th of a millionth of a trillionth of a diameter of a proton. Hold on. Let's read that again. Finally, something I can understand. I need some comparisons for my Unga Bunga brain. The Planck time has no fewer than, so a nanosecond has 8 zeros, okay? After the decimal. A Planck time has no fewer than 43 zeros. It's the time it takes light to travel 1 Planck length, which is around 1/100th of a millionth of a trillionth of the diameter of a proton, according to Symmetry magazine. You see what I'm saying? It's really small, man. There's a dick joke in there. Is Planck time real? I know plankton is real, and he's still trying to steal the secret recipe for the Krabby Patty. Is Planck time real? Because the Planck time is so impractically small, it was largely ignored by scientists prior to the 1950s, according to K.A. Tomlin of the Moscow Institute for the History of Science and Technology. At best, it was considered an interesting curiosity with no real physical significance. Then, when physicists started looking for a quote-unquote theory of everything that would encompass both gravity and quantum mechanics, they realized that the Planck time might have enormous significance after all. Ha ha, ha ha. You wrote Mr. Plankton off, but little did you know, he was on to something. The key lies in the fact that the Planck time, along with other Planck units, incorporates both the gravitational constant G unit and Planck's constant H, which is central to the quantum theory. Inadvertently, back in 1899, Planck had come up with a formula that straddled both halves of modern physics long before anyone had started looking for such a connection. I feel like Planck. People write me off, they're like, oh, he's wacky. Oh, he doesn't make any sense. Oh, he's got weird vibes. He's got weird vibes. That's why we don't invite him to anything. But trust me, in a million years, you people who said I've got weird vibes, you're going to look back and say, because of course you're going to live for millions of years, you're going to look back and say, oh man, James was right all along. We should have invited him. For any given mass, Einstein's theory of gravity, general relativity, gives a characteristic length scale called the Schwarzschild radius. But quantum theory has its own length scale for that mass, which is termed the Compton. So we've got G's, we've got Compton wavelength, according to Georgia State University. So is there any mass for which the Schwarzschild radius is exactly equal to the Compton wavelength? It turns out there is. Wow. How about that? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll mention that in the bonus episode. I just had a realization, but you're going to have to pay to hear it. It turns out that there is, and it's the Planck mass, for which two parameters for one. Hold on, let me back up. What is, and I'm not doing the Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky trial argument of what is. I'm not arguing that. I'm like, hold on. But quantum theory has its own length scale for that mass, which is termed the Compton wavelength, according to Georgia State University. So, is there any mass for which the Schwarzschild radius is exactly equal to the Compton wavelength? It turns out there is, and it's the Planck mass, for which those two parameters, parameters, I say parameters, I say vacuum instead of vacuum, I say space-time continuum instead of continuum. Go fuck yourself. It turns out there is, and it's the Planck mass, for which those two parameters, one from quantum theory and one from general relativity, both equal the Planck wavelength. Amen. Is this just a coincidence? Or, I hit the mic, let me make sure it's still, okay. The mic is still recording, good. Is this just a coincidence, or does it mean that gravitational and quantum effects really do start to overlap at the Planck scale? Some scientists, such as Diego Neschini of, what? Oh my God. The Jyväskylä University in Finland remains skeptical. Oh, leave it to the fucking Finns. Of course. Remain skeptical, but the general the general consensus is that Planck units really do play a key role in connecting these two areas of physics. One possibility is that space-time itself is quantized at the level of a Planck length and Planck time. If this is true, then the fabric of space-time, when looked at on that scale, would appear quote-unquote chunky rather than smoothly continuous. I think that's all the explanation. I'm going to keep reading, but I think that's all the explanation we need. Plankton has discovered that the universe is chunky, which explains my strong preference for chunky / crunchy, depending on however it's advertised, peanut butter as opposed to smooth peanut butter. Take a note also. I mean, yeah, if you get your Jif, it's solid, scoopable already. I don't like the stuff. I don't want added sugar. I don't need added oils. All I need is peanuts and salt. I like to keep my peanut butter pure and, much like the universe, chunky. What occurred at the Planck time? This is the last couple paragraphs. We're almost done. In the universe we see today, look around you. A highly underrated, little-known, short-lived British comedy show. Look around you. If you can find it, check it out. It's awesome. It's like a mock 1970s science show, but it's got the same energy as like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. Another sort of a niche cult dig there, but it's related to maybe something you might have heard, like the IT Crowd, which is related to something even more popular you might have heard, the TV show version of What We Do in the Shadows. There's a lot of interplay here with like niche, bizarro, alt British comedy from the early 2000s, of which I wish I were a part because it is like exactly my jam. Where were we? Yeah. What occurred at the Planck time? In the universe we see today, there are four, count it, four fundamental forces. Four fundamental forces. Gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. I'm sorry. If you were watching this, I flipped you off. I apologize. Let me restart that. I thought it would be funny, and then I did it, and it felt wrong. It felt icky. I take it back. Sorry. Let's try that again. Four fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. Righteous. But as we look backward in time oh Christ, I hit the mic. Let's see. Yes, it's still recording. As we look backward in time through the first moments after the Big Bang, the universe becomes so hot, so fuckable, so dense that these forces gradually merge into each other. It all happened very quickly. That's what she said. From 10 microseconds onward, the four forces looked just as they do today. Before that, however, there was no distinction between the electromagnetic and weak forces, the virgin forces, the beta forces. And prior to, 10 to the negative 36 power seconds, these were joined by the strong forces as well. So you could say the universe had two wolves inside of it, one weak and one strong. At this point, gravity was still a separate force, and based on current theories, we can't look back any further in time than this. But it's widely believed that given a better understanding of quantum gravity, we'd find that prior to the Planck time gravity was also merged into other... I skipped a word and I didn't make any sense. But it's widely believed that given a better understanding of quantum gravity, we would find that prior to the Planck time gravity that was also merged, we'd find that prior to the Planck time, prior to what? Prior to fucking what? I'm confused. Planck time gravity was also merged into other forces. There it is. Here's the last sentence. It was only at the Planck time, around 5 times 10 to the negative 42nd power seconds after the Big Bang, that gravity became the separate force we can see today. And I read somewhere this, it fits with string theory, which I covered in a recent episode prior to this one. I really hope you didn't go blind looking at the eclipse like, you're not supposed to. Bro, I am spent. I'll catch you next time. Tune in for the bonus episode at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. And to those of you who are already patrons, thank you so much. I'm grateful to you. Hopefully I'll catch you next time. Who knows what I'll be talking about next? All right. I gotta take a break and give my back rest. Bye.